I want to share with you 5 data activity highlights. Let me scare you, I got a bunch more. So if I whet your appetite at all, if you want more detail about these or you want any more, you just let me know and I will make sure they get to you. I want to cover what I call rainy day activities first. You know, all of us teachers have these. These are activities that you can accordion pleat into smaller or bigger chunks of time, depending on if you have students that finish activities early, or depending on where you are on the curriculum, or you know the principal comes down and says, oh, by the way, the school's going to be doing something here and you didn't know about it. So I like to keep a set of these, even at the college level, in my pocket that I can utilize to still keep moving the curriculum forward, keep moving the learning objectives forward. So here are my 4 favorite rainy day activities that I use in my data thread. The first activity I call fact or fiction. And each week or so, I try to do this every week, but sometimes you just can't get to things. That's okay. Each week in my class, we look at 2 news briefs. And in advance, the students know that I'm teasing them a little bit because one of the news briefs, and sometimes I really mean and I make up both of them, one of the news briefs is taken directly from the news and the other I shamelessly made up. It's a bunch of just bull-faced shameless lies. And we talk about the briefs and then as a class we vote on whether they were fact or fiction. To keep building my data thread, I manage the class discussion in such a way that when we talk about the articles, we have to talk about how whatever the cool thing that was highlighted in the brief, how it manages data, which by the way allows me to keep talking about abstraction all semester long. And the other thing I do is to talk about societal impact. As we'll see later when we cycle back through in detail, I think the stewardship of computing is one of the most wonderful things that the principal's class gives us such a platform to keep visiting. So over the course of the semester, fact or fiction switches from something I lead to becoming a student-led activity. I also use some artifacts. I capture some reflection content at the beginning of the semester and then once again at the end of the semester so I can compare that, kind of a sanity check, make sure that I'm really accomplishing something. So that was fact or fiction. The second rainy day activity I do is called Clue. And here's how this works. At the beginning of the semester, I tell my students that I have been informed that someone in our class is a spy. And over the course of the semester, we'll be spending 10 minutes here or there and working on clues, developing our computational strategies to try to unmask who this dastardly person is. I make ties to logic gates, to programming conditionals, and I attempt to grow the student's ability to explicitly identify the steps they follow in logical problem solving. I would claim that this exercise has transference to programming unit as well, particular to the debugging, but for me, being a data gal, it allows us, it gives us some game time over the course of the semester that we visit over and over and over to start being able to explicitly call out the steps we're following when we draw conclusions from information. If you can make it explicit, if you can get it outside of yourself, then you can critique it. So that is Clue. The third rainy day activity, I wish I had made this up, but I didn't. It is that off-the-shelf, or there's online versions available today, it is that game called Mastermind. I love this game. It is one of the best computer science education tools ever invented. If you've never played Mastermind, here's how it works. You have little peg positions, 4 of them, and you have a set of pegs that come in different colors. 4 colors. Now there's a version that allows you to use more peg positions and more colors, but let's start off in the shallow end of the pool here. What you do is, if you are playing, you are presented with a model of the world. Okay, it's a set of pegs, but you can't see which colored pegs have been put in which position. And what you do is you take a stab at modeling the world. You create a model of the world, you submit it, And then you receive feedback on if you had the right color peg in the right position. This is a glorious way to get some game time in around modeling and the power of feedback and the skill set of actioning that feedback you use to make a better guess the next time through on your model. Of course, the game is to create an accurate idea of the world in the least number of clues. So this is one of my go-to things whenever some of my students have finished early, they can crank out a game or two of Mastermind. The fourth rainy day activity that I like to do in my data thread, I call Who's in the Box. And what I did, yes, I want you to have a picture of me with nothing better to do than to make little clothes stick figures, because that's what I did. In Who's in the Box, what I do is I put clothespin figures inside of a shoebox, tape the shoebox shut, and when I give the shoebox to my students, it comes along with a card that gives some, don't tell them this is statistics or anything to do with math because they won't think it's as much fun. I just give them a little card that says, inside the box there are 10 people and the average weight is 120 pounds. Then the students, you go to some online version of a spreadsheet. So that's pretty sneaky of me too. I want to build up more and more game time in spreadsheet manipulation. And they have to be imaginative and creative and give me a little storyline about each of the 10 people. And I am always surprised by how imaginative the students are. They name the people, they tell me what the populations are, and they will give me maybe hair color, gender, ethnicity, etc. So after they have submitted their spreadsheet describing who's in the box, they're allowed to open the box. And of course, you probably saw this coming, I intentionally trick them. So if you were told that inside the box were 10 people, average weight of 120 pounds, when you open the box, you're going to find 9 little clothespin people who were zombied up skeletons, and then there's going to be one really honking fat sumo wrestler. So what I want to do without creating cognitive overload with a lot of math at the beginning or statistics, I want to start building their qualitative experience with some of the big common measures in data science. When you look at a population, there are some measures that start to give you a first pass view of what your population really looks like. And so Who's in the Box has turned out to be kind of a fun way of getting introduced to these common data measures. Those are my 4 rainy day activities. We can play them when we have time. We can spend more or less time on them. But my data unit culminates in kind of a capstone project that hopes to capture all the exiting competencies that I think someone who successfully comes through the data unit should have. And for me, I call this Catch the CS Principles Fever. And this is a zombie contagion game. And what I did to create this activity is I went to some data replication sites. When we get to the cycle back video, you will laugh when you see how simple it is to do this. So if it sounds complicated, hang on, it's some button pushes and you can create a whole world in maybe 10 minutes. So I created this world populated with a whole bunch of information about people. So I gave them gender and ethnicity and military experience and travel experience and genetic markers and height and weight and whether they've taken a CS Principles course or not. All kinds of attributes to my populated world. And then what my students have to do is they have to mine this data set to try and figure out who patient 0 was, and where is the contagion corridor unfolding, and what was the genetic cause, because depending on your likelihood of correctly identifying the cause, you then would choose an appropriate cure. So after answering these questions through a series of little activities, at the end, I have rigged the data so it is possible. You can only narrow your search down to 3 possible causes, and you're going to have to take some risk and talk about, the confidence levels. Even if you don't talk about them in a mathematical sense, you're going to have to make a choice, and you won't be able to save everyone. And so we end with a class debate on who we should triage for survival and who we should sadly let go. And by the way, let me tell you that I have never made it to the Save Mrs. Roberts category yet. K-12 instructors and school children have made it to the survival list every single time. When I run this in the fall, I actually directly tie the zombie fever to my programming unit, and my students make a phone app using QR codes, and we run this campus-wide and raise monies for the Habitat for Humanity charity.